Hey, what's up? This is Alex, and you're listening to The Jay Franzi Show.
Welcome to The Jay Franzi Show, a behind-the-curtain look at the entertainment industry with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard. Now, here's your host, Jay Franzi.
Well, hello, and welcome to the show. I am Jay Franzi, and this is your backstage pass to the music industry. This week, we get to talk with a rock and a metal recording artist. We get to talk with Alyxx. We'll talk to her about the opportunity she has to open up for Falling in Reverse at the Inkcarceration Festival, what her production process is like, and we'll discuss how she approaches playing live. Now, I first came across Alyxx on Instagram, and I just knew that I had to get her on the show. Tonight's the night, and I can't wait to talk with her. So if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jfranzi.com. Now, let's get started. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the music a little bit, because I saw on your page that you have an opportunity coming up here in, is it July, where you're opening up for Falling in Reverse?
Yeah, so I'm going to be playing Inkcarceration Festival, which is absolutely insane, and it still doesn't feel real. Yeah, Falling in Reverse and I believe Beartooth, they are headlining, co-headlining.
Yeah, to me, I mean, it's got some of my favorite bands on the bill, but I think they're on a different day. Like, I would like to see Five Finger Death Punch.
I'm a huge fan of them, so I'm excited to see them. I've seen them a bunch.
Yeah, I've seen them a few times now. We had Bruce Ryder on the show. He's their front of house engineer. When they came through town here, we went and checked them out, and it was great.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he's a very, very nice guy. It was great. And I got to sit in the front of house with him and just watch him work. He is a very impressive engineer.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've seen them side stage a few times. The fire is really hot.
Yeah, I would say that.
Wasn't ready for that.
So when did you find out, and how excited were you?
So my manager, set everything up, and I knew in like September of last year, and I couldn't say anything. And I was like, this is very frustrating. I just wanted to announce it. But, obviously, like, you can't spoil anything. And they didn't even tell us the full lineup until an hour before. An hour before it went live, they gave us the flyer because they didn't want anyone to like spoil anything. Yeah, and like I didn't know who else was playing. I had assumptions for some of them, but I saw the flyer and I was like, oh my God. And I circled everyone. I was like, because I'm going for the whole weekend. So I'm like, all right, this is who I got to see. So I'm going to be that person running around after my set, like checking
everybody else out.
Hell yeah.
You got Slipknot on there. That's a big one too. 3 Days Grace.
I am so excited for that one.
So what are you most excited about being on the bill?
Just like being able to perform and to see, I don't know, a different crowd. So I played at Blue Ridge Rock Festival in 2021 before it got a little chaotic. But it was the coolest experience to date. And I just, I met so many other bands and people, and everybody is there just to have a good time. The energy is like intoxicating, and I just want to get back up on that stage and have that feeling again, meet cool people, meet cool bands, and just be around music. Because sometimes, like, when you see a show, there's only, a certain amount of people, but this festival is going to have like 20,000 people there. And like, just that energy is like.
Does that make you nervous?
It's funny. A little bit, but I know the second I get up on that stage, it's going to go out the window. So leading up to it, I'm like, oh my God. But when I'm there, I'll
be pacing backstage for a little while.
Kind of, probably.
So when you played at the Blue Ridge Festival, what made that so special?
So a few things. Main thing is that was my first show back from COVID. So it was September 2021. So the world had kind of slowly started to open again. And it was just like for so long didn't really know what the state was going to be, if people were even going to want to go to a concert again or to see live music. And I had just really started in the business, and it was like maybe like 2019 I started really playing shows like consistently. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, devastated because I didn't know what was going to happen. Everything's moving to online, and I don't like that. I like being in person and being on stage. So I didn't really know where things were going to go and if the festival was even going to happen, because it actually was supposed to be for 2020 and they canceled it. And then they were like, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to do 2021. Like, I don't want to not do it. Finally getting there was just like, it just felt normal again. And so it was just really special for that. And then again, I met so many cool people that I'm still in contact with to this day, which is cool.
So you met those people and you're in contact with them. Are they people in the business, people that performed?
Both. So there's like a band called Major Moment that I connected with. I met Mixie from Stitched Up Heart. So I have those people. And then also photographers that I met, media crew, fans. Like, it's just people that I'm still in contact with to this day. Like, even on Facebook, like I had mentioned that I was playing Incarceration, and people like sent me photos. They're like, I remember you from like Blue Ridge, and they sent the photo. I'm like, oh my God, I remember you had that cool hat. Like, it was just that kind of thing.
So if these are people that you met and you stayed in contact with them, is there any chance of collaborations, or has there been any collaborations?
Not yet, but that would be really cool. Yeah, I haven't really collaborated that much. I've done a lot of like covers with people, not so much on originals, although I am actually currently writing for a collaboration with a friend of mine. So literally, like, I was just recording it like an hour ago. So that's going to be fun.
Well, I know you do the collab videos on TikTok and Instagram and that type of stuff, and they're very impressive, but I just didn't know if you'd want to be doing collabs with other artists, especially when you're out on the road like this. It's always good to pair up with somebody and sing a song or two together.
That would be awesome. I would love if someone wants to invite me up on stage. Let's go.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. If you could hop on stage with one of these acts that are going to be at this festival, which one would you want?
I'm going to be very unrealistic. 3 Days Grace, because they're one of my biggest influences. So I would probably cry. I don't cry, but I probably would cry for that. Yeah, I mean, that's probably like goals.
All right. Well, if you're listening, guys, call in right now and let's discuss it. And let me send a text message real quick, see if we can make that happen.
Come on, Adam, let's go.
That would be pretty cool, though. It'd be fun.
That would be very cool. What would I sing?
Anything.
Right, honestly, like, I'll just stand in the background at that point, just like be like the backup dancer.
There's been some bands I used to say, I'll just come up there with the tambourine if that's all right with you guys. Just let me up.
Just give me a triangle.
Yeah, right. Cowbell. I need more cowbell.
I like that scene.
Nice. All right. So you said you started in 19. So if we go back to 19, can you describe what it was like for you back in 2019?
Yeah. So I used to do theater, and then I was in a girl group. So my life had been in very different.
Let's stop. A girl group. Yeah. What genre of music are we talking?
So it was like pop, R&B kind of. Truth is, I completely auditioned for this accidentally, which I still think is hilarious to this day. So, like I said, I did theater, and there was a flyer for like looking for a girl group, and I had sent it to my best friend who we'd acted together, and I was like, I don't know if this is real. You submit, let me know what happens. And then it was during audition season, so we were just going to a bunch of auditions, and she was like, oh, we got to go to this one. I was like, all right. So I had my my book and everything, and we're sitting down, and I'm looking at her, and I was like, what is this for? And she goes, it's for that girl group. I'm like, wait, what? Like, no idea. And then I booked it. So yeah, that was just a fun experience. Nothing happened from it. I mean, I definitely made like some good connections and stuff like that.
Well, what do you remember most from that time?
Learning how to use Pro Tools and to run a session.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So how did Pro Tools come into it from you performing with a girl group?
So we didn't really get to perform that much. A lot of it was more in the studio and like writing songs and whatnot. It only lasted for like a little over a year, and then things kind of fizzled out. But that time was spent, recording. And after our sessions, I would stay later with the producer, and he'd have other clients come in, and I watched how they recorded, how they produced, because I was like, I want to learn this and be useful. And I remember there was one time where our producer had left because he was on the phone, and I jumped in the seat and I just started running the session. And he came in, he goes, "Guess you don't need me." He was
Nice.
kidding, of course. But yeah, so I mean, that's one of the main reasons I know how to use Pro Tools now.
Well, Pro Tools is definitely the industry standard when it comes to audio recording software.
Yeah,
If you're going to learn one, that's the one to learn for sure.
exactly.
Are you comfortable at it now?
Yeah, so I track myself for, I mean, all the covers I do, I'm recording myself for my original songs as well. Like I'll track piano, strings, synth, effects, whatever, at my home studio, which I'm in. And then I'll send that off to my drummer's studio. And then I use all of his vocal setup is insane. So the past, actually, I think most of the EP, I tracked myself. So I kind of kicked him out of the room, and I recorded all the vocals, and I mixed them, comped them, and then we sent everything off to get mixed and mastered, like properly. Not, I can't mix and master that well, which you will find out when I post a cover I did, I think, the end of this week.
All right. So let's discuss the recording process. So you've got the laptop, you've got the Scarlett, you've got Pro Tools, you're able to record and edit your own music. Then you take it to your drummer's house for vocal overdubs, and then you kick them out of the room. So do you feel more comfortable when nobody's around?
It's not even that. I mean, I've been tracking with him for years. I think I'm at a point, especially like, I know exactly how I want it to sound. And instead of like being like, oh, can we try this again? Oh, can we do this? I just do it. So I feel like it's less stress on him more so than anyone else. But then, we track the rest of the instruments there as well.
So are you producing the entire thing yourself?
Yes.
I can understand when you're producing other people, but when you're producing yourself vocally, do you feel confident enough to know when you've got it to be able to give yourself the guidance you need to get through a tune?
Yeah. I spent my whole life singing and learning harmonies and things like that. So I think I've developed a very good ear for how things should be laid out, where the harmony should go, any ad libs, the intonation, or that kind of stuff. Am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. But I think I have
No, of course you are. Yeah.
Great.
I'm the best ever.
I think I have the confidence at least to be able to put together a song. I mean, I write all the songs that I put out, so I think I'm doing okay.
So it's the drummer's studio. Do you ever take the moment to shoot ideas off them or to collaborate in any way like that and just get ideas from somebody else?
Yeah. So for End of Me, I had an idea that I was like, I wanted it to sound. I was listening to a lot of like Orbit Culture, and I love Septic Flush, and that stuff is way too metal for me, but I like that vibe. So I sat there with him, and my drummer is also an insane guitarist as well. So we sat together, and I was like, this is kind of the vibe I'm going for. I could try to program that because I program everything for my demos, but I was like, I feel like it's not going to sound right. So we kind of like sat there together, and he came up with this really cool riff, and then my guitarist, did his thing, and it just kind of organically came together. I was singing harmonies and like coming up with the choruses as we were doing it. So that was the first song we actually wrote together. Every other song I've come in and I'm like, here's the full demo, lyrics, melody, everything's done. Just make it sound like real instruments and like add your flair. Like when I program drums, I really don't use double bass or anything like that because I'm afraid I'm going to totally butcher that. And Zach, that's like his forte. So I'm like, all right, you do your thing, especially leads. Although what was kind of cool, what song? It's a new song off the EP. Zach was playing this guitar lead, and I was like, oh, I love that. And he's like, I'm just playing what you played. And I was like, oh.
That's why I like it. Well, I know you can play piano. Do you play guitar as well?
No, not well.
No, but enough?
I could BS my way through some chords, but that's the extent of that. I'm very good at programming things.
I know you can play piano well. So when you pick up a guitar, you know what you want to come out of it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So can you use the guitar enough to be a writing tool?
No. I mean, truthfully, if I sat there, probably. But my piano is right there, and that's just so much easier. And if I have an idea, I want to be able to get it out before I lose it. So, like, I have this one plugin. It's called Opus Hollywood Strings, and there's a bunch of different versions of that. But it's this crazy. That's where I get all the strings and everything that sounds so real. Well, they are real, and they have a bunch of guitar ones. So I just play out what I want it to sound like.
Right.
I'm like, oh, there we go. That works.
All right, that's pretty cool. And yeah, I know you mentioned too, like the double bass, programming a double bass never seems to come quite the same as if you have the drummer play it. You know, just the ghost notes and everything in between just never feel the same when you're programming it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I understand that. So I mentioned the piano. I mean, you're a very, very good piano player. When did that start?
I'm not quite sure. I literally 2 piano lessons when I was 8, and I was terrible because he would put the music in front of me, and then he'd play it. But I can play by ear, so I don't look at the music. I would just play it. So I never learned how to like read music or anything. I just played that way. And then this one time, I think I was like 15. There was a piano. Like my mom had played piano, so I was around piano a lot. And I just sat down and I started playing something. I wrote a song. My parents were like, "Who's playing the piano?" And I just sat down and I was like, you know what? I had an idea for a song, and I needed to get it out. So I was like, you know what? Let me just figure this out. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know what I'm playing, but I can hear it. Like I can hear the orchestras in my head. I just have to put it, to Pro Tools or to music.
So you say you don't even know what you're playing. You have to have some sort of an idea. I mean, do you understand what the chords are as you're playing them, or do you just pick things that sound good?
I pick things that sound good. I do. I mean, I know what the chords are and like the intervals and things like that. But I don't sit there and go, oh, I'm playing a C. Now I need to go to like an F sharp. I just play what sounds good. I like a lot of diminished chords. I like things that have to resolve into something else.
So theoretically, you have the foundation, but you're taking artistic freedom when it comes to assembling what you like.
Yeah, exactly. Like I studied so much for voice, so I just kind of take what I hear like vocally, and like if there's a chord that I'm trying to figure out, I'll just hum it and try to find it.
All right, so let's get back to your writing process because this kind of fascinates me. So, do you come up with the lyrics and melody at the same time?
Very rarely. I normally come up with the music first.
Really?
Yeah, whether it's me humming it or me, playing it on piano. And then lyrically, it's like the lyrics are always the last thing to come. I don't know. To me, like when I hear music, I don't focus so much on the lyrics at first. So I can create an entire song, have the melody done, and lyrically I'm like, okay, wait, now what?
I'm the exact opposite. It's lyrics first, and then everything else falls around that. Unlike yourself, I can't just hear something and play it. So you come up with these ideas. So it's all by feel. So you get a feeling inside of you that pushes you towards a direction, and then you start playing music and start recording it.
Yeah.
And so you do that on piano, I'm assuming?
Yes. And again, I think I focus more on the melody to see like how the song makes me feel. And I think that'll dictate the lyrical content. I'm like, if it's something where I'm feeling, happy, I mean, be very, simple or simplistic. If it's a happy song, I'm going to go a happy direction. If it's something sad, I'm going to go in a sad direction. Or if it's like a longing feeling, or like, it's funny because I'm not very emotional, but like when it comes to music, like I just have to see where it takes me mentally. And there are sometimes I end up with lyrics, I'm like, that was dark, but you never know.
I can't imagine you're not an emotional person. It's just how that emotion comes out of you.
That's true.
So, I mean,
usually in sarcasm.
Yeah, right. No, I'm right there with you, my friend.
Yes.
So you sit down, you come up with this mood, you write this music, and then it comes time to start assembling the melody and the lyrical content. So what is your approach when you're putting lyrics together?
Well, one thing I think personally is what sounds the best. Like, so there are times that I'll have a phrase where I'm like, oh, this, in like, in terms of like poetry, like, this is beautifully written and it works really well. But like vocally, phrasing like this or like holding out that word doesn't fit. So there's a lot of going into what works melodically and lyrically.
Do you find yourself changing words to fit a melody?
A lot, yeah. And there's sometimes like I'll say a phrase and like that doesn't really make the most sense, but it fits and it works in the song. So I'm like, okay. And then sometimes I'll hear songs like very famous songs, can't think of any at the moment, but I'm like, wow, those lyrics are a choice. So then I'm like, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, there's some rough lyrics out there for sure. Yeah. Do you have influences that kind of shape who you are today?
I mean, I grew up listening to Evanescence and 3 Days Grace and Breaking Benjamin, so I think I tend to have a writing style similar to them. But I liked how their lyrics were just real. It was more like, I don't know. I seem to like resonate with it more. And some of them, like there's some like pop punk songs that are like very aggressive and just like angry. And I'm like, all right, not really where I am. So yeah, I don't know. I found some of their music just really, it clicked.
So what is it about Evanescence? I just saw Evanescence, them in Hailstorm.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
They are both great bands.
One day.
Are you a Hailstorm fan?
Oh, of course. Lizzie Hale just started following me on Instagram and I wanted to literally cry. I don't know what happened, but I was like, oh my God.
She is awesome. I introduced my family to her. At that time, my now 10-year-old was like 2, and she picked up the 2-year-old and she's hugging her, and she ran out to my now 14-year-old and, was just all excited to talk to her, and she was just the nicest person. That's and amazing. Then maybe 3 months later, we were doing a transfer for her. We were taking her from one event to another. And as she gets out, she turns around and hands me a guitar pick and said, "Can you give this to your daughter for me?" And she remembered. It's not like I brought that up. I mean, she just remembered it. And I was like, wow, that's super, super nice.
That's amazing.
So she signed a picture, gave it to me for my daughter, and a guitar pick. And
that's so cool.
So she's very nice. But back to Evanescence. What is it about Evanescence that drew you to that style?
I think I've always been a fan of metal and hard rock, and I don't have like a typical hard rock voice. So like, people think like hard rock, they think like Lizzie Hale, like Joan Jett, like that kind of like gritty, like raspy voice. And I was not blessed with that. So I found Evanescence and I was like, hold on, like with heavy guitars, melodic singing. It's like, this is something I can sing along to these songs and like, this fits my voice. And I was like, maybe I could do something like this one day.
And here we are.
It all comes full circle.
Right. There you go. So you were comparing yourself to them in, what was the other one you said?
Breaking Benjamin.
Yeah.
3 Days Grace.
Not quite the same to me.
No.
So what are you drawing from those bands?
I think lyrical content and especially like Breaking Benjamin, harmonies and just like the melodic singing. Obviously I don't scream, but I think the passion behind like Adam's voice or 3 Days Grace, like that was something I always loved because it wasn't just, oh, he's singing and he sounds good. It's like you can feel everything that he's singing. So that was like, oh, I was very drawn to that. And like I said, Breaking Benjamin, the harmonies and just the melodies were just so pretty. And then Evanescence, so I could sound like her.
What kind of challenges do you have when you sing songs like that?
I think for me, it's trying to, it sounds like a silly problem, but trying to figure out where to place them. So my voice can either do like a full belt, a mix, head voice, falsetto. So it's just kind of like, where does this fall? So on my own stuff, I try to always do things more of a mix because I'm like, that's something that's more longevity and I can actually do that live. But sometimes in the studio, I'm just like, I'm just gonna go as hard as I can and see what happens.
Is there anything vocally that you wish you could do that you can't?
Scream. I've tried, and it just doesn't work.
Does it not work, or does it not feel comfortable to you?
It just doesn't feel right. I watched a bunch of videos, and I do try to like dabble in it here and there, but I'm like, you know what? I'll keep trying to learn it, but I'm not like set on it. Like if I can't do it and I don't perfect it, I'm fine.
Well, you wouldn't want to possibly danger your voice either.
That too. I think that's always in the back of my head.
I mean, as amazing as Lizzie Hale is, she damaged her voice.
Yeah.
She had to recover from that and learn an entirely different way of singing. So when you have a voice like yours, I wouldn't want to see it get damaged by trying to do something like that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely it's not something I want to do.
You mentioned earlier that you have a manager. So when did you meet the manager, and how did that come about?
Through Instagram. I don't know if I followed their company or they followed me, and a couple of messages back and forth being like, hey, like, what's your story? Like, what are you planning on doing? Then a couple phone calls, and then, started working together. I think it's been about 2.5 years now. And it's cool. It's nice to have a guidance or like a guiding force and tell me like, give me suggestions on like what I should and shouldn't do. Because sometimes this business can be kind of lonely, and, trying to figure out what the next step is, or trying to manage what you should do, next in line is overwhelming. So it's nice to have someone help and, push in for me as well.
Especially on the business side. The business side of music can be rough.
Yeah.
What has been one thing that you've learned that you truly didn't know before having a manager?
I guess in terms of like getting releases set up and like strategically how to do that correctly and to get, the most out of it.
I'm talking on the DSPs and when to...
Yeah. I used to just like post a song. It was like...
Right.
And then realizing that there's so much more that goes into that. So that was a learning curve.
Is there anything about having a manager that you don't like?
Not really, no.
All right. So you said that it was a company. So is there a team of people, or is there any one representative?
There is a company, but he is my manager. So it's just him.
Okay. Does just him have a name?
Chris. Yes, Chris Bianchi from CB Entertainment. Sorry.
There you go.
I'll watch this and be like, what the hell?
Yeah, let's just give him a little bit of credit. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So now that you have him there, it's similar to the producer that we were discussing earlier about having somebody to bounce ideas off of, but you're just doing it on a business point of view versus a musical. Does he take any interest in guiding you musically?
Yes. He actually, for the EP that's not coming out yet, hold on. I have an announcement later. I just have to like solidify the date, but I do have an EP coming out soon. But he helped me find someone to mix and master it. We listened to the first draft of it, and very nicely was like, I think you might, we should reach out to someone to mix and master it to get kind of like the full feel that you're going for. And I was kind of like set on what I had, and then realizing that, maybe I should branch out a little bit more. So with his guidance, he helped me find someone. And then I ended up finding, there's a bunch of people who were going back and forth. And he reached out to this man named Jeff Dunn. And he did like Motionless in White, Ice Nine Kills, Catch Your Breath, that song, Dial Tone. So he did, Wage War. He everybody.
So with a little bit more practice, he might be pretty good.
Yeah, he's got a little ways to go,
Yeah.
but I was like, you know what? Especially like Dial Tone, I was like, these are songs I love the way they sound. I'm just gonna go to him.
Did you originally mix it?
No, I did not. Well, kind of. It was a group effort. So my drummer mixed it and I mixed it, and it was like the sound was great, but it was kind of a different thing. Like we didn't have like effects and stuff like that in it, and just like to have a more of like the modern kind of twist to it. So yeah, we reached out, and that's what we ended up doing.
Nice. So how many songs are on the EP?
5.
Did Jeff mix all 5?
Yes.
How long did it take for him to mix all 5 songs?
So they were kind of spread out. 3 of the songs are already currently out. It's Alive, Creature of the Night, and End of Me. So they were all kind of done in different times, but the last 3 were mixed within, I think, from like September to October.
Whose idea was it for the Dracula sample at the end of Creatures?
Mine. It was kind of an accident. So I very ADD when I'm recording stuff. So I was recording the demo for Creature, and I like was scrolling through TikTok, and I had my mic on and like the vocal effects and everything. And I scrolled through, and it's an old video from like the 40s started playing. And the way it sounded through my microphone, I was like, wait, that sounds so cool. And I was like, hold on, I want to do this. I want to like sample something. And I was like, well, Creature of the Night, obviously Dracula. So that famous quote, I was like, let me find it. So I found it on YouTube, and I recorded it through my microphone, and that became the ending. And I was like, wait, this sounds so cool.
I know I found you through the internet. Like I said, you did a duet that I thought was really amazing. It took me down the rabbit hole of the rest of your videos and songs. And
that was my goal.
It worked. Perfect.
Yes.
So what is your intent with social media to connect with your audience?
That's a hard question because I don't really know. So my goal, what I try to do is, I'll post covers, and then if people have suggestions, I like to go live a lot so I can really like interact with people as well. And I like I said, doing some of those collabs and stuff where you can get a broader audience. But social media like hates me, I'm convinced, because I'll post something and it like goes to the void, and I'm like, well, there it goes, especially like on TikTok and whatnot. So my goal is just to connect with people and to introduce them to my music and me. I want this to be a career, so I'm trying, but sometimes social media has different ideas.
Well, that's true. And you never know who's on the other end, whether, you think it's going well or not. There's people that are listening that just never interact. So
That's true.
You could be reaching somebody and just not even ever knowing it.
Well, people should interact. Let me know.
They should.
Let me know. I'm not posting into the
everybody
void.
Listening, please go, send some messages. Let her know that we're here.
Feel like I'm alive.
All right. I know you mentioned COVID earlier in the challenges that we were faced with during that time, but what other setbacks have you had in your career?
One fun setback, TuneCore decided to delete a few of my songs, like my old songs. They accused me of falsifying my streams and paying for like whatever it was, paying for playlists. And I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. And like they took away songs that had barely any streams. I'm like, if I was gonna fake my streams, I would go past like 2,000 for some of these songs, but I digress. I could have sat there and tried to fight it, but I looked at it, I was like, look, some of these songs are from the end of 2018, 2019, 2020. I was like, these are a different vibe for what I am now. So it's like, it is nice nostalgia thing. So I have an old EP from 2018. There's a physical copy. So some people have that, and I do sometimes sell it at shows. So I'm like, it's a little like fun exclusive because you can't get anywhere else. But that's not what I sound like anymore. I think also because I had just done theater / girl group, my voice was still in that kind of pop-ish realm, which I didn't like. So I'm like, I think I've evolved vocally as well. The only song that I am very devastated is the song Serenity, that kind of had like a cult following. And I have people to this day message me and be like, where did it go? I'm like, so that
it's
a bunch
on
of that.
YouTube.
It is. Exactly. So I'm like, go to YouTube. But also my Patreon, I do have a bunch of those songs that were taken down available there.
That's cool.
Join my Patreon.
There you go. Another reason to interact. Yeah. All right. So you're building an audience. Is there any strategic plan that you have to build the audience, or is it just something that's happening?
There was a plan. So I know with the algorithms, they say, if something catches on, jump on the bandwagon and do things like that. That's never worked for me. So I'm at this point where I'm just posting what I like, and I hope that people like it. And there are certain things that I notice do better in the algorithm. Like when I do like makeup transition videos, I'm like, I really don't want to be known for that. But if I can do one of those videos, grab some people in, and I go, oh yeah, by the way, I sing and here's my other stuff. So I try to do that.
Well, the videos are, they're eye-catching if nothing else. I mean, people scroll by and see it, and it's got a familiar feel to it, and then all of a sudden your music is there, and you're right, it's going to introduce somebody to your music. Yeah. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. So what are you hoping the audience takes away from your music?
I hope they feel inspired. I know that sounds so cheesy, but like most of my songs, except one, is kind of depressing, but the other ones are, they're just, I want you to have like a good feeling coming out of it. Like the song Alive is about getting out of a toxic relationship and realizing that like you might feel like the world is ending, but it's not, because you're going to be okay and you got this, and like, more power to you. End of Me, kind of similar, realizing that someone that you thought you knew wasn't who they thought they were, and like you might have felt like this was the end of the world, but it's like, no, this won't be the end. This is just this chapter. So I try to have positivity at the end of everything, because life's depressing as is,
Was that relationship something you lived through?
No. It was a friend of mine's situation. I was texting him. I was like, let's open a can of worms. I was like, so how did you feel when this happened? And some of the lyrics I had sent him, and he was like, oh, that's it. I was like, all right, nailed it.
That kind of puts it in place right there. Yep, I think you've nailed it.
And he's like, well, that hit home. Oh, cool.
Well, before we get off social media, you have colorful hair. You have an image that you portray. Is that something that is just you, or is it something that you actually put time into thinking about?
It was absolutely no thought behind this. I've done every color. I was already purple, like a lavender, and I was bored. So I saw a picture of someone that had like teal on one side, purple on the other, and I was like, ooh, that looks like fun. So in 2019, I dyed this half green, and it came out more like a bluish green because I just put it over the purple, and I'm not a hairdresser, so I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, I'm just going to throw the color on and hope for the best. And yeah, I went to my birthday dinner, my whole family, and I walked into this nice restaurant, purple and green hair, and they were just like, okay. And then it stuck. I don't know. I just got experimenting with it.
You say they said, okay. What did they really think?
They're like, nothing surprises me at this point. I had changed my hair like every 6-7 months, but I really liked this. And then I was exploring, going darker and different variations. And the more my hair got used to the color, like it just kind of sticks.
It gets brighter and brighter and brighter.
Yep.
I only laugh. I came home the other night. My daughter was in the bathroom, and I look in there, and she's just scrubbing her hair. And I was like, oh, God, here we go. And she comes out, and it was purple. Not quite as bright purple as yours, but it was purple. And she's like, it doesn't look blue. I'm like, no, it looks purple.
Was it supposed to be blue or purple?
I think she thought it was going to come out blue, but it came out purple. So yeah, I mean, the hair thing is definitely an image. Your clothing, your outfits are all part of an image.
Yeah. What you see is what you get.
What you see is what you get.
Like I said, I did theater. I was a dancer my whole life, so I was always being someone else. So it's nice to just do what I think feels right and looks right.
Well, that's a good point. You mentioned the theater before, and you mentioned being in the girl group, both of which are transition points into what you're doing now. And then you mentioned your earlier songs that were removed, that those weren't quite your voice at that time. Yeah. So do you feel like this has all been a transition to this point? Is this who you are?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was always variations of that. I think I'm just constantly evolving. I'm constantly learning and growing and hopefully getting better. So looking back, at the time I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then, looking back, I'm like, eh. So I'm very proud of where I am now. I worked my butt off, and I just want this to be a full-time career, and I'm just going to keep pushing like a psychopath until the day I die and hope for the best.
Do you ever look back at your older material and think that it could have been better, or you don't like it?
Oh, of course. There are times I'm like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But then I'm like, okay, well, that's,
You didn't know
I had
that
to
at that
start
time.
somewhere, you know? And I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm proud. Like I said, I write my own songs. So I'm like, I was still kind of new to like fully composing stuff. So, at the end of the day, yeah, I can go back and criticize myself, but I do that enough. So sometimes it's nice to be like, you know what? I'm proud. This is what I did. It was out, and now I'm in a totally different place.
All right. Well, let's talk about your live performances then. The musicians that you play with, are they the same musicians every time?
Yes. So Zachy Ali is my drummer. He also plays guitar and bass and on the records. He also has his own original stuff out. He's absolutely insane. He plays like 8-string guitar, and it's just, he does all his own stuff. He's absolutely insane. So check him out.
Too much
Zachy
talent. Too much talent, Zach.
Literally, it's like, can you relax? And then my guitarist is Brandon Hawks, and he's an insane shredder, but he also has such like a cool, like old school vibe to him. So it's just, we blend really well. Zach, I knew from the girl group's called Retro Glam. I met someone named Dean who played bass for a hot second and then introduced me to Zach. And Zach introduced me to Brandon. So it's kind of like everybody. That's another thing about the girl group, is it introduced me to a lot of people that I know now and through association.
So who's playing bass?
I don't have one at the moment. So I use backing tracks. Everyone has their own opinion on that. I would like a bass player. They're hard to come by because they're always in like 500 other bands. So for Inkcarceration, I did reach out to a friend of mine. So hopefully he plays. He actually played with me at Blue Ridge Rock Fest. So I sent him a picture of Inkcarceration, and I was like, do you want to play this? And he was like, how can I say no? So hopefully he actually can, but we'll see.
All right. Very cool. So, and then do you play keyboards when you play live?
No, I have. I didn't like it. And that sounds silly because I play. But I think if I'm at a point where I'm doing like a full set, like I'm headlining something where I have the luxury to have a bunch of songs, I can throw in some of those slower songs and do kind of like what Amy Lee does and just have piano and singing, like that I would like to do. But I think, if I'm playing a 25, 30-minute set, I really don't want to like totally kill the vibe and be like, let's have a soft piano song. I want something like super high energy because
you want people to remember it.
Exactly.
And also, too, you're the front person of the group, and if you stop to sit behind the keyboard, that might show off some talent, but you'd rather be engaging with the audience, I'm sure.
Exactly. And I want to move around. I want to, get the audience hyped up. And if I'm stuck, which I've done, I've been behind a keyboard, and I was like, this sucks.
So what's next for you?
So I have an EP coming out. Currently waiting on the cover art for that, and then I can process that and have an actual date. Just working on setting a couple more shows, some locally, some down south. So a lot of things like in the works. Nothing's like solidified yet. The only thing I can say is I will be playing Inkcarceration Fest on July 18th.
In my neck of the woods. That's very cool. I'm going to have to see if I can come check that out.
That would be awesome.
All right, my friend. Well, we do this thing here we call Unsung Heroes, where we take a moment to shine the light on somebody who's worked behind the scenes or somebody who may have supported you along the way. Do you have anybody you'd like to shine a little light on?
Can I say my family?
You can say anybody you'd like, my friend.
My mom and dad and my boyfriend have been nothing but supportive and always there for me. And like, sometimes, this business is hard and it's overwhelming. And the fact that they're all there, like rooting for me and supporting me and being my brain half the time, like I'll text my mom or call her and be like, I'm trying to write an email, but I can't form words. Like, can you just make sure this sounds like English? And, my dad has, he's come to shows. He's been helping me out. He's been like a roadie. He came out to meet with me to a show in Ohio. We freaking drove the van the whole time, which was insane. He helped with my merch. Like, he's just.
That's a good dad.
Yeah. I'm so lucky that I have family that support my insane dreams.
Does boyfriend have a name?
Boyfriend does. His name is Frank. He's in a band called Garden State Radio, and he is a full-time musician.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you, if he was in the industry or not.
Yeah. He actually played guitar for me for a couple of years.
Nice.
But then his band took off, and I'm like,
I feel like we're crossing a line a little bit there, dating the help and all. You ever bust his cookies?
No, you know what's funny though? So we went to high school together and we're like collaborating and stuff back in the day. And then we actually did a cover of Bring Me to Life that we did for like some school talent show thing and we won.
A big thanks to Alyxx for taking the time to share stories with us, and thank you for taking the time to hang with me here. I really do appreciate it. If you know anyone that would enjoy this episode, please be sure to share it. You can do that and find the links to everything mentioned over at jfranzi.com/episode 123. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Jay Franzi Show. Make sure you visit us at jfranzi.com. Follow, connect, and say hello. This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.